it's Rachel here with Bubbly Balloon Co. Welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a balloon garland out of fishing line. So the first thing I do is get out all of the balloons I'm going to be using. Okay, these are kind of the base of the balloon here. These are all my 9 and 11 inch balloons. I have jewel teal, transparent, tropical teal, and also Caribbean blue that I'm working with today. And I'm just going to be grabbing at random, mixing and matching. And the first thing I want to do is start inflating in pairs of 2. So I'm going to use my electric pump here. This is actually like a super cheap one you can get off of Amazon, but I find that it works pretty well in most situations. So I've been pretty happy with it so far. I've had it for about a year. And it inflates 2 at a time. So I'm going to take any 2 balloons here, inflate them both, and then tie them together just like this. So I've inflated 2 at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and gently press on them to give them that round bubbly shape that I love. Okay, then I'm going to kind of wrap them together, wrap the necks as close to the base of each balloon as possible, and just wrap one neck around the other and do just a simple tie there and pull pretty tight. You want it to be secure enough that no air is going to leak out over the next hours or days or however long you want this to be up, but you don't want to pull too tight to actually rip the balloon. So this is what's called a pair or a duplet of balloons, and this is the basic building block of a balloon garland or a balloon arch. This is what we're going to be tying together with fishing line to build a balloon garland. So I want to make a whole bunch more of these. Again, I'm taking any 2 colors, it doesn't even matter. Just press on them gently, give them that nice round shape. I do want to inflate them to different sizes as I'm going. That's going to really give it that extra dimension to the garland and really make it look a lot more professional. Okay, so there's my second pair. I'm going to put it next to the first one and keep going. Okay, so I've made my first 4 pairs of balloons just like this. And while I am going to use a lot of them just in 2s as they are, some of them I want to group together because I might want to use some here and there, groups of 4 or 6 or 8. So all we're going to do to make those, let me show you how this goes. It's very easy. You take 2 of the pairs, okay, you put the centers of them together, and then you twist 1 balloon from each pair a few times so that they're secure. Okay, so 2 together, twist. Okay, you see how that goes? Now this is called a quad. It's a set of 4 balloons. Okay, and now I can use pairs, I can use quads, and I can even combine 2 quads or a quad and a pair to make little larger clusters that I can use when building. So I'm going to keep building pairs for now until I have quite a few of them made, and then we'll start assembling with fishing line. If you'd like to see more details on how to make clusters specifically, I do have an entire video tutorial on that. It's actually video 1 in my Balloon Garland Basics series, which I will link somewhere around here for you. And in this specific instance, using fishing line, I'm going to be doing mostly groups of 2, some groups of 4 balloons, or larger clusters of 6 and 8 sometimes as well. So just keep that in mind. So at this point I've inflated about a dozen pairs, which is just the very beginning of the garland. We're going to need a whole lot more than that before this is over. But I like to assemble as I go and build the garland out as I inflate. There are some people who inflate everything and then they do all of the assembly at once. I like to kind of do it in chunks as I go. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a dozen or so pairs I have now. And I'm going to start by cutting off a length of fishing line, probably like, gosh, I don't know, 5 yards, something like that. Okay. And I'm going to keep that in my trusty apron with my scissors right next to it. Now I'm going to leave maybe a foot or 2 feet at the very end that's like open and free so I can use that for hanging or attaching to something else. But what I'm going to do is around that mark, go ahead and tie around a pair. Okay, and just make a decent, probably a double knot, just a simple double knot should be fine. I do want to caution you that working with fishing line and balloons, fishing line, like most materials, can, cut, slice, pop your balloons, so do be gentle with it. But I do find that when you work with thicker fishing line, I don't seem to have that problem. So I do like prefer to use the thicker kind, but even with the thin stuff, it can be totally fine. Just be a little careful when you're pulling and stuff, not to pull too hard on a balloon. So I've gone ahead and tied on the fishing line to this little pair here. So I'm gonna pick another pair, honestly, any pair. I like to mix and match the colors when I'm doing a design like this. Keep it kind of different, keep some variation going in it, not predictable, you know? So I'm gonna go ahead and put the second pair in with the first one, and I am gonna try and get the centers as close together as possible, okay? Something like that is pretty good. And then, oop, don't get my fishing line wrapped up here. Okay, keep that one line free. But the longer one, I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap like once or twice around the balloons, okay? Now you'll see those are connected. Okay, that's the very first start of our garland. Okay, so I'm gonna take another pair here. Go ahead and hold it close. Go ahead and wrap it once or twice, doesn't need to be a lot. Okay, and there we go. Now you do want to keep the pairs as close together as possible because you don't really want to see fishing line from the outside. It's going to happen at first. You're going to have to practice and play with it and get familiar and all of that. And don't worry, because at the end, we're going to add in all of our accent balloons, our little 5-inchers, any other, specialty balloons we might be using, whether it's chromes or orbs or whatever. So we'll have plenty of chance to fill in holes, but you do want to keep them to a minimum. And the way you do that is by keeping the balloons as close together as possible. So watch this one. I'm going to focus on this next pair, on getting it as close together as possible. Okay, so I've got this. I'm gonna go ahead and really get those centers pushed in together. And there we go. Okay, look how much, I don't know if you can see the difference there, but this and this pair are much closer than the last two were. All right, from the outside, you wouldn't be able to see a thing there. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. Take another pair here. Stick it in nice and close. And just a little wrap there, around one and around the other. And we can just keep going like that, okay? Now we can also use those 4s, 6s, 8s, whatever you're working with. So I'm gonna take a little group of 4 here, a quad, and I'm gonna go ahead and, just like the others, put the center as close together as possible. Just like that. And just do wrap it once. And wrap it twice. Okay. And there you go. I've got my little garlands building out. Now the good thing about using fishing line instead of a strip is it's very movable. There's a lot of room for rotation, repositioning, stuff like that. I still think that using 260s or tying the balloon necks directly together, like I teach in the Balloon Garland Basic series, is the most versatile and probably the best method. But if you do want to use fishing line, it is good for beginners or intermediate, I should say. And there is a lot of room to still reposition and kind of like really manipulate and get the look you're going for with your garland. One tip I do have is when you're pushing your new, pair, quad, cluster, whatever, into the other ones in the garland, as you're pressing down, you want to pull on the fishing line kind of gently, but you'll feel it really tighten up and hold those balloons as close together as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and keep inflating and adding to the garland as I go. Now, one other thing is I am going to keep kind of twisting and like reshaping this as I go. I can do this at any point, including at the end, but I do want it to not be in a straight line. I want it to have curves and bumps and lifts and falls. So I just like doing that while I'm building so I can kind of visualize it and kind of think with how much longer it should be or where I want to reshape it next. Stuff like that. Okay guys, I'm at the very end of my fishing line. I have about a foot or less left. So I wrapped it around a bunch of balloons here to go ahead and tie that off and end that off. And I can either call this a done, or I can tie another piece of fishing line into my balloons. So right now this is like 8 feet or so, and if you remember we started with a length of fishing line that was, I'm gonna guess, about 5 yards. I could be off on that, but this is made a pretty average size garland, and I'll link it below I think, but this is the Trilene Big Game Mono 30 pound 440 yard fishing line. Okay, so to get this started, just gonna go ahead and tie my fishing line into the center of my quad here, and I'm just gonna wrap it around a couple of times and tie in another knot to feel pretty safe and secure about it. All right, I'm gonna be putting this into the garland the same way I've been doing. Just kind of get the center of this quad close to the center of the last pair I put in, and then wrap my fishing line around a couple of balloons from the old garland, the main section of the garland, and then wrap also a couple of balloons from the new section so that they're kind of melded together. And, oh gosh, don't hit the camera, please. And there you go. Hopefully you can't even tell where it picked up. Now I want to point out that when you're working with translucent balloons, whether it's literally the clear balloons or like this jewel teal, something that you can really, see through, sometimes your fishing line will be evident. So I just like the things you can do to basically make it look as good as possible is keep those bases as close together as you can. Okay, so there's as little space in between here as possible. And then on the line itself, you want to wrap it as close to the center of the garland as possible, really down low on the balloons, and just wrap maybe once or twice per balloon that you're wrapping. If you start wrapping it a whole bunch to keep it really secure, 5 times, 10 times, something like that. I know I've gotten carried away in the past. Those are the times it becomes really visible, in my opinion. And then you have to work overtime trying to cover all those visible patches or the holes or whatever with accent balloons, 5-inchers, stuff like that. So I think it looks a lot neater if you kind of do it right from the beginning. You have a lot less like sloppy work to clean up later. It's gonna be pretty either way, but I just think if you kind of keep it neat and tight from the beginning, it looks a lot better in the end. And it takes a lot less work. Okay, just to end that off, tied it a whole bunch. Make sure that end is secure. And guys, I think we're done. So that's how easy it is to make a beautiful balloon garland with fishing line. Of course, we can add on to this. We can add in our accent balloons and anything else to fluff it out, shape it, all that good stuff. I'm gonna do quite a bit more to this one, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the end. So once your garland is hung, if you want to add on any extras, whether it's your 5-inchers, some chrome balloons, something else to give it a little bit of extra life, just take a bit of fishing line, go ahead and tie it around the pair or the single balloon cluster, whatever you want to tie in, and just tie a knot around it. I'm going to do at least a double knot so I feel pretty secure about it. Okay, and then you're just going to go ahead and wind it in with this fishing line. Just like that, and you can add in as few or as many as you'd like. As you can see, you can build a pretty complete look using nothing but balloons and fishing line. I hope I answered all your questions on how to build a balloon garland with fishing line. If I missed anything, if you have more questions for me, go ahead and leave them below. I'll do my best to get back to you. I hope you had fun with me today. I'll see you in the next video. Did you wake up from your nap, my little sleeping prince?